Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Playing World of Tanks. I'm AJ, and today we'll be looking at a game that I had in my T110E4, which is the American Tier 10 tank destroyer, and perhaps one of the most versatile tank destroyers in the game. Now, with the introduction of the grill, I would say that this tank hasn't suffered much, just because the grill still is relatively good, but what the grill lacks is it has no armor whatsoever to speak of. So if you're gonna fire at the grill, even in a tier 8 tank, you're probably gonna damage it. The E4, on the other hand, is not that well armored, because anything that has, I don't know, 240 plus pen can easily pen it, but underneath that pen, like, it has some weird angles and some weird armor layout, and you can in theory bounce some shots. So over here I take my tank to the city, just because on the enemy team, primarily most of our tanks kind of deployed in the middle, and most of the enemy heavies generally tend to go towards the city, and I thought in a pinch the E4 can play as a heavy, but you wanted to play it as a heavy as a medium to somewhat longish range, just because the insane pen that this gun has makes it easy to pen things at a distance. Now, as I come out and try to look down this alleyway, the E100 on the enemy team gets lucky. He manages to pen my lower plate and ammo rack me, and that is one of the most frustrating things about the E4 is it has frontally mounted ammo racks. Now here I'm anticipating the T54E1 coming along that alleyway, and I aim low, but somehow I don't know how I don't pen the side of the T54E1, because, you know, magical, mystical RNG fairies are generally very kind to me. So now at this point I kind of feel I'm in a bind, just because there's two tanks and I'm just by myself. The 54 on our team comes to assist me at this point, and the E100 on the enemy team, who has the smaller gun, just comes around the side and manages to pen me again. At this point, the T54E1 goes for our T54, and I obliged the T54, who actually did rescue me out of a pinch by putting one into the T54E1. Now, T54E1 is not going to kill the T54 in one clip, so at this point my job was just to keep the E100 off his back so he can deal with the T54. The E100 at this point pins me one more time, but since he took a little bit of time to fire at me, I can reload before he does. And since his turret's nice and flat, and I pulled one straight through his turret and take him out. And at this point I just used APCR ammunition, just because I was somewhat annoyed at the E100. Actually, none of the shots needed APCR for me to sort of like pen him. Just because like RNG just gave him a free ammo rack, which I don't think he deserved. And, you know, I just went like full tilt. So I mean, that's one of the things you just want to keep in mind. There's no reason to use APCR at that point. So now I'm trying to see the two tanks that were spotted in the middle, and I'm trying to figure out whether they're coming this way or not. The Object 430 comes this way, but unfortunately for him, at this close of a distance, he's pretty much dead, just because it's not easy for almost any medium tank to bounce a shot from this thing. So at this point, also, the FE215B was not spotted. I make the terrible mistake of showing myself. That was not loaded. Already hits him in the side and tracks him, and I put one more shot into him. At this point, our team sort of like collapses on the FE, and I'm hoping to bounce a shot on my side, which the FE doesn't aim well because he probably panics. And I managed to put one more shot into him to finish him off. Now this leaves me at a very precarious HP, and anything on the team can splash me to death. Again, the T-54 comes to my rescue in this situation, which I do appreciate a lot. Now the one thing I wanted to do was to go through the city, just because with 2 already still alive on the enemy team, I just didn't want to go through the middle or even the north of the map, just because, you know, if Artie spots me, and, you know, even one of the Artie spots me, the other can splash me and kill me. So at this point I need to take out the Artie first for me to be anywhere close to being effective. I ping the map and tell the T-54 to go through the city, and I'm basically just following him at a distance and providing him good support. Now at this point the game is you know, firmly in favor of the enemy team, but if you take out the 2 RD, it will be somewhat more balanced. T-54 managed to find one of the enemy, tanks, and he takes him out, and then he keeps going forward instead of capping, which is the right thing to do, just because you don't want to announce your presence onto the enemy cap. Now at this point, the one strange thing is that since the T-54 actually did trip the cap and actually went forward, none of the enemy tanks turned around to deal with him. In theory, you know, there's a tank behind you. You know, you should be careful and sort of like, you know, try to take somebody out who's on your flank, but they just keep going forward towards our cap, which is very interesting. Like this T110E4 prod, who was obviously in a situation to turn around and sort of like see if the T-54 was still hanging around the cap or not, but he didn't. So once the T110E4 prod gets taken out, and all that is left is 2 RD and the tank destroyer, the SU-101. And at this point I was feeling somewhat confident, but I'm in a really slow tank, and going back was going to take a little bit of effort, especially on my part, since the tank is actually not that fast. And about this time, the FE215B on our team gets taken out, and he proceeds to start yelling at me in chat about that I don't know what I'm doing and blah blah. And all I was trying to do at this point was trying to get back, and there's only so much getting back you can do fast enough in this thing. So at this point we exchange another tank for tank, and that just leaves me in the T110E4 and are already still alive, who is on the cap. Now in theory the bad chat already could have killed the SU-101, but you know, I don't know what the situation was on cap, so I'm trying to get there as fast as I can, and while the SU-101 is still lit, because I didn't want him to, even if he does manage to kill the RD, I didn't want him to go out of the cap and get unlit. So I'm trying my best to get there as quickly as I can. SU-101 kills the bad shot RD. I fire this shot just a split second too late, and the SU-101 escapes. And as I'm trying to climb this hill to spot him, I spot the enemy RD, who is heading for our cap, which was basically the only tank I was kind of afraid of at this point. This time the T110E4 does not miss, and I take out the Object 261, and now it boils down to a 1v1, me versus the SU-101. Now at this point I kind of figured that the SU-101 is either camping in the north, in the hills, which generally most PDs do once they actually are pushed back. So I thought it would be easier for me to sort of like go through the city and see where he is, instead of like going face first into our cap. And at this point I was going to use the city to get as close to the hills as possible. Also, the other reason I was kind of confident in doing this is because I carry coated optics on my T110E4, and so I was fairly certain I was going to spot him, and the SU-101 is actually running back to his cap. I aim the shot carefully and take him out, finishing the game and securing the victory for us. So I hope you guys enjoyed this game. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next episode of Playing World of Tanks.